Hello everyone, and welcome to The Apex, a weekly conversation with the titans and tastemakers of the automotive world. Now, if I said that the ultimate 911 is not necessarily made by Porsche, most people would raise an eyebrow. However, if you're in the know, there's a good chance that you'd immediately think of my guest this week, Alois Ruf, who heads up RUF Automobile. Combining maximum performance, personality, and the very highest standards of German automotive engineering, RUF has been operating in its modern guise since the 1970s, with a long family history before that. Having boasted a number of the world's fastest production cars in its lineup over the years, and with its vehicles loved by sports car enthusiasts all over the world, RUF is the definition of a cult car manufacturer. Alois, welcome to the Apex.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Nice to speak to you, Hector. Hello.
Wonderful. So, my first question is, what are your earliest memories of cars, and how did you find yourself at the helm of RUF?
Well, it's quite easy. I was born into a family that was only involved with automobiles and anything that had wheels that were turning. That was my parents' garage here at that time and a mechanical workshop. Mm-hmm. And the company was founded in 1939, but real activities happened after World War II at the time of lots of improvisation. And the first car I remember was the car type Adler. You know the brand Adler? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They had a car called Autobahn, Adler type Autobahn. And that was a car that was built in the 1930s. And my father had such a car after World War II. And he put a Hanomag diesel engine in it and drove it. That was his way of transportation at that time. And I was actually taken to the baptizing, to the christening in that automobile. And I still remember this automobile because I think we still had it until I was age of 2. Mm-hmm. So that was my very, very first memory of an automobile.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find yourself in a position? How old were you when you stepped up to head up RUF? Was it? Were you working in the company for your father until then? Were you thinking of doing other things?
2 years of age, I was already crawling all over the place. I even fell into the waste oil tank.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that was my second baptizing. So I survived that, thank God, and. But I was always hanging around what's going on in the workshop, and I was dirty, filthy, greasy from when I came home in the evening, and my mother had to brush me up in the bathtub for an hour at least, and that was not so pleasant. I remember that. But this is how I grew up, and I wanted to know anything and everything, and I was always after my dad to see what's going on, and also with our employees. I was the junior in the company.
So you worked your way up.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I really liked reading was on your website, you speak a lot about the camaraderie between car enthusiasts and how that really fuels what you do at RUF. How would you describe the culture of RUF to someone who doesn't really know the company, and what do you think makes it special and different?
Well, the community of the people that were the so-called Porsche drivers in the earlier days, like in the 1960s and 70s, is a community. They hang together like family. And also at that time, a Porsche was a very, very rare and exclusive vehicle, one must say. And the owners of these cars are very, very special people. In a way, crazy, but crazy in the positive sense. And car crazy as we are living it today, with a lot more that are in this epidemic. And the beautiful thing is that it is something positive. And it's something that you can always fix by doing more of the same. And this community, I'm part of it myself because I love the Porsche. I love the 911. I was 14 years of age when I got acquainted with this car, when I heard it the first time. And that sound went to my bone marrow, and you don't lose it. It's always there. And that community of these diehard people that think alike, we stick together. And we are the ones also who cast new ideas and come up with new ideas because you see that there's an interest. You see what kind of direction the trend goes. If I can give you an example, in 1977, Porsche announced that the 911 will be discontinued in about 2 years' time, and they're coming out with the final model, the 911 SC. And you can imagine it was a turmoil amongst the Porsche diehards. They said, no, we want a 911, no matter how imperfect the car is, what they announced in Stuttgart. We love this imperfection of the car and we live with that and we want to continue with that. And I had customers requesting, can you build me a 911 in 2 years and another one in 5 years? I can always replace my car because when Porsche stops building it. And I said, don't worry, if Porsche stops building it, we will continue building it. Was my answer, which was, how can I say, it was a big thing that I said, but we actually did it because in the 1980s, we built cars from ground up with plain body shells from Porsche, bodies in white. And we were authorized to give these cars our own chassis number because in 1981, we were listed as a car manufacturer by the German government. And these cars were legally RUFs and no longer Porsches.
So it's a project that really came straight out of pure passion. I mean,
absolutely,
almost sounds like the definition of it.
And I want to tell you something. In my life, in the whole history of what we were doing, we never had a business plan. We always followed sort of our own nose, our own navigation, where to go next and what to do. And the rest was history, and it just happened, you know. And we are still operating this way. We don't work with a business plan.
That's really interesting. And speaking of operations, I think something that surprises a lot of people about RUF cars when they look at them is that there's often very few Porsche parts used at all, and that you do a lot of your own manufacturing, even your own suspension and so on. What advantages does that give you as a manufacturer?
This is today, and I must tell you the history of this. In 1987, we came up with a car that was the so-called CTR, and the nickname was Yellowbird, and that was the world's fastest car at that time. And we built that with a body shell of a Porsche Carrera that we modified, the body shell. And we were using still many suspension parts out of the Porsche shelf. And the engine was pretty much our own. Everything that was the peripheral parts of the mechanical drive part of the engine, crankshaft and so on. And 33 years later, first of all, let's say 30 years later, we decided to make an homage to this car because the Yellowbird was such a significant car in our history that we said we have to make a new version of the Yellowbird. Now, the new version of the Yellowbird, if you want to be with parameters of the original car, being lightweight, being narrow, being nimble, and this car you could not build with what we call the Baukasten, you know, the bits and pieces that were available from the newer models. The newer model became very, very big and heavy. So we said, since we cannot buy the old body shell, the good old body shell, we have to create everything on our own. So what we are coming up now is a car that looks like a classic 911, which is the look of the Yellowbird. But the car from A to Z is entirely ours. The only thing that we are still sharing from the old parts bin is the windshield, the door glass, and the rear view mirror. The rest of the...
Oh, wow.
Yes, everything. Every bit and piece. And it starts with the carbon tub, which is the monocoque, and then complete new subframe in the front, the subframe in the rear, and all the suspension pieces with the double wishbones and the push rod pieces and coil over shock absorbers in the horizontal way in the front and in the rear. You know? So we have really a thoroughbred Le Mans car, you could say, for the road.
That's an extraordinary amount of knowledge and expertise under one roof that you must have accumulated over the years to make all of that in-house.
Well, we have people that have been in the company for over 40 years.
Wow. And
they have grown into this. And then when you are finally try to climb to a summit, then you know, okay, now we put the best and the best of the best together. And we no longer make any types of compromises because, well, it wouldn't fit here, so we have to do it that way or this way. And therefore we could start on a clean sheet of paper That helped us. So that allowed us all that freedom to go for the maximum.
And so your clients must like that as well, if they're told that.
Love it. And they love the car feels. The car feels light. The car moves. It feels like you're driving your own pants. This.
So let's talk a bit about the Yellowbird, because like many people, when I was younger, I fully became aware of RUF when I saw that 1987 Fascination video where you have Stefan Rosser, wearing loafers and sports socks and a t-shirt and just blasting this CTR around the Nürburgring. I mean, I remember watching it and going, what is this driving? It's incredible. And what is this car? Did you expect it to become so popular? Was it kind of a deliberate act, that video?
Not at all. I can tell you the story how this came about. Well, first of all, Stefan always in the summer wears loafers, still white socks today. And he wears a t-shirt because it was a hot day, but he would not wear a helmet. He would not drive in a helmet. He says, I cannot drive if I have a helmet. To him, this is a no-no.
Wow.
So also when he goes on racetracks, he needs a waiver for that also, because he wouldn't drive with a helmet.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Okay, that's Stefan. How did this video come about? This is a little story by itself. You must understand the idea and intention was we wanted to make a video that would sort of present as an image video of the RUF company. Mm. And I was discussing it with Stefan, and he said, well, I think we should go to the Nürburgring and make a couple of sequences, a couple of corners, and make some good, exciting shots, because all these company portraits are boring and nobody watches them because they're too boring. They have all this typical sterile music in it and so on, and nobody wants to watch it.
Like nice, calm, flowing camera shots, kind of spinning wheels.
Yeah. So I said, okay, well then let's make a couple of exciting shots. So as we were going to the Nürburgring, Stefan had an idea and said, well, I know this guy, he flies a helicopter. He can fly the helicopter like I drive the Nürburgring. And he said, good. Well, then let's hire this guy. It was a lot of money. It was 5,000 Deutschmarks for 1 hour for him to do some filming. He said, but let's do it. We use also the footage of the helicopter. And then while we were there, Stefan said, I think maybe there are some crazies that would like to see what the whole Nürburgring looks like, the whole lap. Why don't we shoot the whole lap? So we ended up shooting the whole lap. And that movie was meant to be for some real insiders. It was never meant to be the RUF movie, because the RUF movie was meant to be this portrait that we wanted to make. We did make the portrait, and nobody cares for the portrait. They all care for the byproduct movie, which was the Nürburgring,
Yeah.
And this Nürburgring movie made the whole world, and it brought Sony to us. Sony wanted to be in the video games with our Yellowbird, and that was the attraction. Also, the movie from the Nürburgring. And we were given a prize by Car Magazine as the best automotive movie of the 90s, which was also very, very nice that this was given.
Yeah.
So also after, what is the name? Rendezvous, Rendezvous, the 60s movie. In Paris, the Ferrari that went in the morning to Paris. And this was the next movie of that significance, which we were very proud of.
I think it's far better, to be honest. I always watch it if I'm going to go on a good drive, a spirited drive or a track, just watching that mastery. It's just unbelievable. And you actually mentioned the video games there. So one of the interesting ways in which RUF has gained exposure is through the appearance of the Yellowbird and other cars in video games like Gran Turismo. And certainly people of my generation grew up playing those, and that's how some of us fell in love with these cars. What was the response to the car like, and did it bring you a new demographic of customer that is now, I suppose, some of them are in a position to actually come and drive and purchase your cars?
We call the new customers, let's say they're 40 years of age, 40 to 50. They are the video game customers. They've been through the Sony Gran Turismo. And the video games, that was the merit of my wife. Estonia understood, she's much younger than me. She understood what needs to be done in the next generation to keep the excitement going. Day it can happen, I travel to the United States and the customs officer says, "Oh, are you the guy from the Yellowbird and race at the Nürburgring?" By the way, the Nürburgring got also a lot more famous through our film because people were always confusing Nürburgring with Nuremberg and didn't know where it was.
Yeah,
I mean, we really put the Nürburgring
well
on the world map, although it is one of the oldest racetracks, from the 1920s, as we know. So, but I definitely see that the new generation customer is our Gran Turismo player. We used to play with that video game.
And is it true? I think I read somewhere that when Estonia was figuring out the details of this, that it was a deliberate move to make the RUF cars, quite difficult to get. You had to do a lot of work in the game to get to them.
Yeah, well, that was the positioning. Yeah, that was in the Gran Turismo. Well, we had funny events. We had guys writing to us and said, "Oh, my car is oversteering, and what can I do to fix that?" And we said, "Oh, which car is that? Can you give us the chassis number of the car?" And then it was a kid that wrote, "It's in the video game. I don't have a car."
That's amazing. So they were asking you for setup tips. That is wonderful.
Yeah, that is so great.
Oh, that's a really heartwarming thing to hear, actually. And another thing, I think recent news, big news for car enthusiasts, is that there's been the recent announcement of the Peterson Museum exhibit entitled Pfaffenhausen Speed Shop, the RUF Gallery, and I think that's in association with Luftgekühlt. Could you tell us a bit more about the exhibition? What's the idea behind it, and what it means to you to have something on at the Peterson?
The Peterson Museum is dedicated to very, very special cars and car makers, and they always have a special, lasts a couple of months for certain brands, and they have in their downstairs the vault, and in the vault you have to pay an extra price to get a tour there. And we're very, very proud that we are part of this. And it was basically, again, a group of friends that got together and said, "Okay, let's do that." I mean, the chairman of the Peters Museum is a RUF friend and customer, as well as the Luftgekühlt people that said, "Okay, why don't we put RUF there and we make a sort of a small Luftgekühlt show that lasts longer, not only one day." And I think that was a very, very good idea. It was a great idea. And all these cars are actually from customers. We didn't have to send one car from us.
I was going to ask whether
all from the States.
Oh, that's interesting. And do RUF have do you have a collection of your own production models that go back in some sort of historic?
We do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're most happy to invite you when you come and we can show it to.
We'd absolutely. I think we'd absolutely love that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, talking of maybe some of the RUF cars, what for you are the most special or maybe meaningful RUF models that have been produced so far? Are there any that particularly stand out for you because of your personal involvement, or might have been your first one, or a new performance metric that was met?
The RUF Turbo number 1 that was in 1977 is really the most significant because that was the door opener also to the German auto press, which was Automotive and Sport. And that was the first car they looked at, and they accepted to make a story and bring it in their magazine. And that was in 77. And then subsequently, all the RUF models that came, the next significant, of course, was the CTR, the Yellowbird. And then many models were following, and we are very, very proud of this long history. Yeah, definitely.
So what inspires you in coming up with ideas for new configurations or models? Is it a customer-driven thing, or is it are you chasing a particular performance metric or idea sometimes?
It's a combination. What I like, there seems to be people that like it too. So it is a mix between what I hear from the customers, what they are raving for, and what I am dreaming of, and we're bringing these things together, and this is how we come to a new model.
So what kind of things do you Chase, when you're putting together a configuration or a concept? What's your ideal?
The purity and being analog. Purity and analog, I think these are the two things this is most important. Because when you look at all the enthusiasts of classic cars, they like the purity of that automobile, that response of the car, how it feels, the feedback. That's the best way. And I think we don't need to have more electronics that we must have, that are needed for safe driving today. I am okay with ABS. I am okay with ESP. I'm okay with the power steering, but that's about it. The airbags, maybe, okay, for passive safety. But it shouldn't be more. Why do we need all this stuff that is suddenly somebody's trying to steer your steering wheel and all this stuff? I don't agree with that. And all the other cars have it. And everybody who owns one of our cars has one of these modern cars or several of them. Anyway, so you want to have one real thing.
Yeah.
And have the sheer and pure power, and that gives you this experience, this driving experience that you are missing with all the modern cars.
Yeah. And is it difficult as a manufacturer? You obviously have to follow certain regulations. Every car you make is subject to them. With the growth in these electronic driver aids, new regulations that need them, is it becoming more of a challenge to navigate that, or?
It is a challenge, but like I said, we stay minimalistic. We stay pretty much away from all these things. Plus, a small company like us, if we were to develop those electronic gadgets, it's not doable for us. And I don't see the need for it either. Because the people who buy our cars, they are so happy that these cars do not have these aids. Now they are available in every other car. You can buy the cheapest car and it has a distance warning and it has all kinds of stuff.
If you want that fun, you can get one of those. No, I don't think you'll find us disagreeing. So could you tell us anything about what you're currently working on at RUF, or any projects that you've got ongoing, and what we might expect to see in the near future from you?
Well, we are working very, very strongly right now to get these cars out, the production of the CTR, that we find more speed in getting the cars out, because with our COVID stuff here, stuff is slowed down, unfortunately, and we don't receive the parts from the suppliers in the correct timing, but we do our best. We are delivering every week a car now, and things will improve. But this is where our focus is. Then the SCR has to come to production as well, the normally aspirated version. And we are always cooking on something while all of this is happening, and be ready for some surprises.
That sounds very, very exciting. So, Alois, we're coming up on time. So I have some quick-fire questions that I thought we could end the interview with. The first one is, what is your favorite racetrack?
The Nürburgring, Nordschleife.
It's interesting because we've had a lot of people on the podcast who it's either the Nürburgring or they say Spa.
Spa is also great. It's up and down. It's fantastic. It's super. But Nürburgring is just something. There's no second thing like the Nürburgring.
Fantastic. And so the second quickfire question is, what is your best or your favorite driving memory?
When my dad allowed me to drive the 911 before I had a driver license.
Oh, perfect.
At the age of 16.
Wow. Lucky man. And the last question is, and this is maybe a bit cheeky, but if you could modify or improve one single car from another manufacturer, which one would it be and why? And I'm thinking of a car that you look at and go, you know what, I quite fancy, I know what I'd do with that.
My head has only one number.
Yeah.
And I love also my E-Type. I've got a very
interesting
flat floor. And that car would need a couple of modifications to make it more drivable, but that would take the charm of the car away, so I don't touch it.
Interesting. I think there's a lot of people out there who would absolutely love to see a RUF E-Type. Just saying it out loud makes me really excited.
All right.
So yeah, maybe bear that one in mind. But so we're up on time, Alois. So I'd just like to thank you very much for joining us today and for such a fun interview. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure is mine. Okay. All right. Take care. Huh?
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Cheers.
The Apex is powered by Custodian, a new platform for car enthusiasts designed to help you manage your car from anywhere. Using the latest technology, it takes the pain out of ownership and lets you just enjoy the drive, because Custodian will take care of the rest. So if you believe life starts after 6,000 RPM, you need to be on Custodian. Join us now at www.custodian.club to sign up for early access and get ready to enjoy your car like never before.